So what we always do is we do a bit of a quick intro, which is like a true or false. So Max is going to give us one truth and one false fact, and we're going to try and pick which one is which.
So I'm from a large family where I have 8 sisters, or I'm completely terrified of heights, but have bungee jumped, skydived, and done a 1.6 kilometer zip line. One of those is true, one of those is false.
Ooh, which one do we think is true? 8 sisters? Anyone? 8 sisters? I reckon that's true.
I reckon that's true.
I reckon he's done the skydiving.
Okay.
Everyone else going for the other one, or we've got some fence sitters?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're both very close, but I've actually got 6 sisters and 2 brothers. But I am terrified of heights, and yes, I have bungee jumped, skydived, and done a 1.6 kilometer zip line with an hilarious video of me going, are we okay?
Or is somebody just pushing you out of a plane?
It's anyway. The least terrifying of those, the one I didn't scare me at all was 11,000 feet skydive. Did not scare me at all.
Interesting.
We're going to go to the edge of the plane. We're going to sit down. It was a tandem dive, and we we went off the edge. Yep. Okay, this is quite nice. The thing catches, and and it's like, yeah, this is lovely, beautiful. Oh, we're getting down. Oh, I should probably say woohoo or something like that when we land. But yeah, didn't get the address. But the others were terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But I did them anyway.
Awesome. I guess if you can't see the ground, it's hard.
Yes. Now, I want to talk today about Joya Life. So going back to the financial independence and retire early, I hit that point at the age of 46, which coincidentally was also the year that my grandson was born. But I do what I do because I love doing it. So I've been working as a mortgage broker for 17 years. And I predominantly work by asking people about their goals. And so I want to talk about goal setting today. But then I extended goal setting into other life areas because that's what's interesting to me. And that's what Joya Life is all about. So my mortgage business is Golden Eggs Mortgage Brokers. So Joya Life brought to you by Golden Eggs. These are the 8 life areas that we talk about. And we deliberately start at work life because that takes up so much of our time. We go through relationships, your home health, sense of belonging, which is about a community. And that's one of the things I love about BX, is if you get in the habit of going regularly, you actually feel like you belong to something, which is really, really valuable. The same with things like sports teams and other things. But too many people these days feel very isolated, very lonely, and that's just a damn shame. Recreation is what we're doing outside of work, and if you jam-pack your stuff like I do, that's why I was a little bit late this morning because I had to do a beach run and a swim before I came here because you've got to fit stuff in. Holidays is fabulous. It gives us a break. And amongst self-employed people, when we take the scorecard, the weakest scores are typically in the holiday area. But because self-employed people think that they shouldn't be or they don't or whatever. And finances is deliberately last because that's the one that facilitates the others, it shouldn't be a goal in its own right. When people say, oh, I want to make $1 million, like, why? What are you actually trying to do? Now, for those of you who haven't taken a scorecard, there is a QR code here. Click on the QR code, have a go at the scorecard, and you're going through it now. It gives you like a wheel, and I'll show you a few examples of finished ones in a second. But if you haven't done it already, go to the scorecard, have a look. If you score really, really well, you get a nice big round wheel. If you've got some great areas and some dodgy areas, it will start looking a bit wonky. But it's not a questionnaire so much as there's a bunch of statements you either agree or disagree with. And they're things like, for example, in career, I love my job. And if you strongly agree with that, then you get a score of 5 points. And if you strongly disagree, you get a score of 1 point. And then there's a whole bunch of questions for each section, which then determines whether you're doing really well in some areas or not. And this is what some of the scorecards look like. So here's an example of some completed scorecards where you've got, someone here that's very strong in relationships and finance, but, a few sort of quite weak areas, especially in recreation. And then you've got someone here this is a typical young person, great relationships, lots of time hanging out with their friends, but maybe not so good in some of the other areas, and especially in finances. And then very rarely, this is quite a full one where you've got someone that's got really quite good scores in pretty much everything. So this is the framework that we use for goal setting. And the reason we use 3 time frames is because often people put a long list of goals and they have trouble prioritizing, and they end up deprioritizing something that's super important because it's far away. Whereas when you set it out 1 to 2, 3 to 10, and 10 to 30, you end up with better, richer information. And also, who's got relationship? Who's in a relationship with a partner? Yep. It's much easier to have a conversation about, should this be in the 1 to 2 or 3 to 10 than is this a thing or not? So when you come to have a conversation, you don't want to take something off the list or put it on. You might just go, well, is this more of a 10 to 30 year thing? Now, when we do goal setting, what we really ask for is start here. What do we really want for our lives in our career, relationship, home, health, belonging? Holidays is often a really good one to understand. So in the long term, you might go, I want to be able to travel for 3 months of every year and go overseas at least once. That might be your long-term 10 to 30 year goal. But in the medium term, you might go, well, I've got a really great European trip lined up for 5 years' time, and that's something that we're looking forward to. In the short term, we want to go to New Zealand next year and have an annual holiday within Australia. And so we try and break it down that way, but the more you understand what you're trying to do, and the more you write down as well. The funny thing is, we found as soon as people start writing stuff down in these boxes, they start jumping ahead and trying to achieve things and thinking, oh shit, I better start working on something here. And that's why we start here and then work backwards. So the first principle, start with the end in mind and then come backwards. The second principle is look for links. So when we look at different things in our lives, for example, we might think about belonging, and we might also think about our health. And then you go, well, if you join a team, a sports team, or you join a gym, or you join a running club, well, then you get a sense of belonging to that team and you're doing something for your health, which you're more likely to do. We know that people, when you try and commit to any kind of change in a health regime, people do it much better together than they do on their own. And so when we start to link things together, we go, I'm not really doing enough. Like recreation's another great one. You go, I really should be spending more time outdoors. You go, okay, but I also want to spend more time with my partner. It's like, okay, well, why don't me and my partner go for a walk along the beach? Friday is one of my favorite days of the week, because Friday afternoons I pick up my grandson from school. So 3 o'clock this afternoon I will be at his school, and then we've already agreed that he's 11 years old. We've already agreed that today we're going to go for a walk along the beach. So it'll either be from Malabar to Maroubra, or sometimes we'll do the Waverley Cemetery to Bondi, have an ice cream, walk back. And we'll quite often do between 5 and 8 Ks. In fact, we actually, last week, he had a day off school. We did 10 Ks. We went along the headlands. But that's great for health, but great for that connection. And when you want to hang out, especially those people with, I mean, he's my grandson, but I know some of you got younger kids, doing something physical like that is a better way of hanging out with them than trying to just sit down and let's just hang out together. It's like, it's too much pressure. You go for a walk and the conversation just comes. Or it's like, oh my God, it's like whale watching season, by the way, for those that don't know. So that's one of the reasons we're definitely doing a beach walk today. Is, there's a whale, and you suddenly start to talk, and then I remember that one we saw last year, remember when we went out on this thing, and it's just great for building conversation. So it can help with relationships and recreation at the same time. Finance we always put last. I know some of us think finance is super important, but finances is an enabler. It lets us do the other stuff. But if we're not happy in our careers and we have to change jobs to do something better, then probably we should do that first and then might make the finances work later. Very quickly on that, next Tuesday, there is an SBS show called Insight, and next Tuesday evening, 8:30, they're doing one on careers and the rat race, and is it worth staying in the rat race or getting out of the rat race? And For those of you who haven't seen the Insight show, they have about 30 people in a room, and then they kind of go and interview one of them, start asking questions, and then they'll go and interview one of the others, and then they'll go and interview someone else to comment on what someone else said. And it's a really, really great show, but I'm very heavily featured in that episode. And in particular, they wanted me to say on camera that I took a 93% pay cut to become a high school teacher, which is what I did 20 years ago now, where I went from working in a big corporate as a sales director in Vietnam to being a trainee maths teacher in England. And it was a 93% pay cut. So sometimes you have to take a step backwards on the career front so that you can be happy in your life. And that's what I want for everyone. And that's the mission for Joya Life. Because people end up with different goals, different areas where they're strong and weak, we then need different partners. And so we have, for example, we have someone on our team actually does something similar to what you are, Rebecca, who talks about gut health and health, but we're also looking for personal trainers and other people into kind of, what's the ones you do the scans? So Dexter, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So if you think about any area, there's probably 3 or 4 professions that link back to that area. So relationship, again, I've said I'm looking for relationship therapists and counselors because we're looking to add someone to our team. Because if someone says, hey, my relationship's... I need to tell you a little story, right? Now, this scorecard's a great little scorecard, but 2 of the first people that took it was a husband and wife. And on the relationship front, 25 out of 25, everything was perfect. The other, I think it was an 8. Okay. Now, to score an 8, you have to say strongly disagree or disagree to pretty much every single question. And one of the questions in particular, one of the statements is, we can have open and robust conversations. One has said strongly agree, and the other has said strongly disagree. So we need a relationship therapist in our team because people like that need to be, I think we need to sit you down and have a conversation. Because if one of you thinks they can have open and robust conversations and the other one doesn't, it sounds a lot like one of you's going, they'll say whatever's on their mind. I'm done now, and the other person feels like they can't say a thing. And we make a joke of it, but at the same time, this is someone's actual relationship, and they probably need some proper counselling and assistance. I'm just a finance guy. I can't. I've got to have an expert in this area, which we're actively recruiting into interviewing, and also looking for podcast guests across all those areas as well. So it is time to wrap up. Any other questions about long-term goal setting or about Joya Life? Or a question about your own? Yeah, go.
I'd love to be a podcast guest.
You'd love to be a podcast?
Yes.
Then I would love to have you. Awesome. I've got your card and we'll talk about it. I think we've got a one-to-one later on.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm doing lots of podcasts.
Can you show maybe or give an example? What was the best example when you have helped someone that was listening? Or maybe something that someone was not listening to, maybe some of your...
Yeah, so one of the easiest thing for me is because I across the whole area, when we're goal setting, what we find is a lot of people make step changes. But as an expert, I get involved in the finances. And one of the biggest things, I had a client yesterday actually, 2 days ago. He's had problems with his budget. He's spending too much money. Right? And so I was looking for what we could cut back, but I was also looking at how can we get more out of your life. And one of the line items on his budget was $80 on brunch with he's a single dad with 2 kids, 6 and 10, brunch with his boys, $80. I said, hey, mate, $80 a week on brunch. I said, that's $350 a month. If you put the $350 into a month and said to the boys, this month, we'd like to do something fun together. What would you like to do? There is no way in the world that those boys are going to go, let's go to brunch 4 times. Absolutely no way. They're going to say, let's go to the powerhouse. Let's go to the beach. Let's go and do something together. But the reality is that we tend to do things because we do them when we think they're important, but that's not important at all. And as soon as we said that, he realized he could have much better conversations with his kids. And I've got couples that I've helped a long time ago. And that's the biggest thing they say, is that the time we spend with our kids is so valuable. And I know I've finished time, but I don't want to disrupt the meeting. But I don't know if you heard this before, but by the time your kids turn 18, they will have spent 90% of the days with you that they will spend in their entire lives. So how do we spend that time wisely? And I promise you it's not to do with spending money, it's about enjoying life. Okay, that's it.
That was
Thank you.
Thank you, Max. That was excellent.